Now to our very first story here on News Today. Scores of residents at Adenta Ashiye here in Accra have been protesting against the deplorable roads in the area. They claim the roads connecting Adenta to Katamanso have been abandoned by the contractor for over 3 years. Chairman of the Adenta Ashiye Residents Association, Mark, says they want government to compel the contractor to return to site. Some of them spoke to Joy News.
About 2.5 years ago, we realized that a contractor came on site to construct the road from Ashiye to Katamanso. Actually, the road on which we are standing now leads to Tema. Now, the contractor came, did some work on the, on the road. They do the filling, then brought in chippings to do the, the tarring. Actually, the road was blocked for the work to be done. Then, all of a sudden, we realized that they have moved out, and the following morning, they did the bypass. Since then, we have not seen the contractor on site. The chippings are there for you to see. There are some culverts that has been done to block the distance. Now, about a year ago, the contractor came on site and started collecting the chippings that is meant for the tarring of our road. When we questioned them, they said, oh, their machine got spoiled, they are moving it and they'll come back. And that by February, they'll come and do the work. We've been trying every now and then to get the contractor on site, and it has also become a mystery because we are unable to get the right contractor, the person who is doing the work, because the people at Urban Roads are not willing to give us the name. And also, if you realize when we were coming in, there's no signage about which contractor is constructing the road. So 2 weeks ago, the Minister of Roads and Railways, Honorable Alhaji Ilusa Fuseni, was on Joy FM. So we called in to find out what is happening to our road. And he said, no, he's surprised that this road has not been done because it's supposed to be completed last December. This road is supposed to be completed last December. So now, our matter is this. We want the contractor to come back on site. We cannot pay taxes, money is given to him to work, and he will vacate site.
This situation is really devastating. We are residents of East Ashiye, and as you can see, all written on our billboards, our message is very simple. We need our road and we need water. We've been relegated to the background as an association for a very long time. We are Ghanaians. And whatever that the government is doing for other communities, we equally deserve some. But we realize that for this road, for a very long time, the road has not been tarred. And worst of it all, when it rains, there are a lot of potholes. Cars find it difficult to move on the road.
Mostly when there is no rain, the dust will be worrying us because of the road is not yet completed. We have already informed the elders they have started making something about it. Then before we realize again, the stones they bring for us to use, and they are selling the stones again. So we want the government or the elders to know about this thing. So they should try to help us on this road.
Away from that, flag bearer of the Progressive People's Party, Dr. Papa Kwesi Indom, is demanding commitment from President John Mahama of the NDC and Nana Akufo-Addo of the NPP to pursue compulsory education for Ghanaian children. Dr. Indom says he's made that pledge and expects his competitors from the country's biggest political parties to do same to make Ghana strong and its people prosperous.
Any presidential candidate comes to you this time, 2016, and says, what I'm offering is expanding access. Tell that person, and if that person happens to be Dramani Mahama, tell that person that expanding access won't do. That our constitution says free, compulsory, universal, basic education. And what does expanding access mean? What does it have to do with anything? If anybody comes and says free SHS this year, and if that person is Nana Akufo-Addo, well, ask him, how can a child enjoy free SHS if that child did not enjoy free basic education, or did not go through basic education and was not compelled to go through basic education? So what is the promise of free SHS without basic education? Tell him to go revise his notes. And since 2012, what has happened to free SHS? It tells us that it was a mere political campaign slogan that has now been dropped because the election, the 2012 election, came and passed. Now, what does Nana Akufo-Addo say about free SHS? Has he learned something new? Has John Dramani Mahama learned something new? Ask them, what do they say about free compulsory education up to senior high school level? Let's get our people educated, and let's make sure that through the education our people become more prosperous. That's what we want in Ghana.
We'll still stay on some political stories. The ruling National Democratic Congress, NDC, has assured the chiefs and people of the Volta region of a better story in 2017. That concerns about bad roads, schools, hospitals and local industries will all be addressed by 2020. The party's Deputy General Secretary, Koko Anyidoho, who made the pledge, said some of the concerns of the people of the region could be addressed by government appointees who hail from there, and charged them to rise to the occasion. In an interview with Joy News' Mauli Yevu, Mr. Anyidoho, however, asked the appointees to desist from acts that put government in bad light.
You must accept the criticisms in good faith, give assurance in humility, and move on. You can't say because you have done one, they have no right to ask. They will continue to ask. And of course, it's our duty to continue to deliver. And that's what we're hoping to do, that we'll continue to deliver on our promises. And by the grace of God, once President Mahama gets another term, the projections, from lots of international organizations, local organizations, point to the fact that 2017 to 2020 is going to see Ghana on a serious growth trajectory, and that a lot of hard work has been done, a lot of spade work has been done, and the fruits of that hard work will pop up 2017 to 2020. So I'm sure 2020 by this time, God will, if we meet here again, the story of Nive and the Nodu area will be a different one. There will be more joy than it is today.
Is your grip over the region losing out? That's why you seems to be having more attention in this area this time. Is your grip being threatened?
Well, they say a bird in hand is worth in the bush. You must always protect what you have. Never take your core base for granted. And that's what we are not doing. We are not taking our core base for granted. We need to consolidate our core base before we go out there looking for more. So we will never take the Volta region for granted. God forbid.
Are you feeling the threat of the opposition?
It's not about the threat of the opposition. We must not be a threat to ourselves by taking the region for granted. It's not about the opposition. It's about us. We shouldn't be a threat to ourselves by taking the stronghold of the NDC for granted. And it's a strong message that the NDC party is sending to especially appointees. Appointees, government appointees. We will not sit down and allow them to take their appointments for granted and create problems for the party on the ground. Because we keep hearing that all over the place. In our recent outreach, that was a major message around appointees, appointees, appointees. And the party is beginning to stand its ground. Appointees will not be allowed to take their positions and their appointments for granted. It won't happen.
Let's move away from that. Education is recognized the world over as one of the major building blocks of any nation. It is, however, important that for education to have the desired effect on the development of a nation, all its citizenry should be given the chance to take advantage of the opportunities which education provides in order to achieve both personal and national aspirations. One group which seems to be calling on the government to do something about the applied is the Ghana Blind Union and others with visual impairment.
The point is that how long are we going to continue to be left out? Because the point is that, look, you're talking about all these government policies, you're talking about all the materials. We've heard about right to read campaigns for children, we've heard about read more, we've heard about all these movements that encourage people to read. And we feel that we have a right to be part of it. So we want it to be done yesterday so we can have access to material. Right now, from what we understand, the treaty actually went to cabinet. And from what the Minister of Employment said, that the treaty was actually approved in cabinet. We have information that the treaty is now with the Attorney General's Department. And we're hoping that it will not be there for too long, because we heard about this some time ago. And it appears that it hasn't reached Parliament yet. Well, generally speaking, persons with visual impairment, well, you know, because of our situation, we face a lot of struggle. But these have to do with, a lot has to do with attitudes of the public. We have to things that deal with issues like employment, for example. When somebody has to go through school and after school, you can't get employment at places because you go to a place and people tend to focus on your disability rather than your ability. Those are issues that we deal with. Things that we think also border on exclusion, like you have children in schools, children are limited to go to certain schools because they can't fit in the regular education system, which I'm glad to see that now there's this inclusive education policy which has just been launched, and we hope would also handle this particular situation. And we look at things, access to credits for people who want to go in self-employment. You know, sometimes you go to the rural areas and people are not even able to get access from the banks because of their situation. Well, fortunately, the bank workers would look at their disability and conclude that then they do not merit credit, even attention. So we have a lot of issues. We have issues pertaining to even basic needs like white canes, for example. White canes, for example, we don't even have enough of those in the system. Those are also issues. Even our traffic rules, for example. When I was growing up, there was this system about the white cane. Don't forget the white cane traffic regulations and things. Now we don't hear any of those again. You know, so those are some of the issues that we talk about. You know, and it seems like persons with visual impairment, even persons with disability, as well, sometimes we don't see ourselves being factored into planning systems. I mean, like when government is planning things, we think that we should be part of the planning process. I could just give you one example about persons with disability. You remember this N1 highway when it was built? Yes. I mean, and you remember this pedestrian bridge issue? Mm-hmm. And they were building the pedestrian bridges far apart. And as persons with disability, we thought that the way the bridges were being built, number one, they didn't have ramps. If I was in a wheelchair, I wouldn't be able to use the pedestrian bridge. And then look how far apart they were. And government assured us that, oh, we'll take your needs into consideration. Mm-hmm. So, and nothing was done about that. All right, Jock. So you're here sitting now campaigning. Aside this, what are your other initiatives you hope to, you know, take on to help in your fight? Well, as the Ghana Blind Union, ours is to serve as a catalyst and to point out to government issues and areas where we think that we have been excluded and our needs must be included. So like I mentioned in past, and I talk about this inclusive education policy. I'm happy to say that like we've been really in the forefront of the drive to have this inclusive education policy.
You're watching Joy News today with me, Benis Abubedu. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, there'll be more stories. Please stay on. Bernice Abubedu. Now, there's been a fire outbreak at Nkwanta South in the Volta region. 3 children are feared dead. We can now get a live update from our Volta regional correspondent, Ivy Setaji, who joins us live on the line. Hello, Ivy.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. What exactly caused the fire? Do we know?
Well, according to what we are hearing, we don't really know what caused the fire. But according to the assemblyman who spoke with us, spoke with him earlier, he said he doesn't know what caused the fire, but the man and his 3 children were in the room when the fire started. That he tried to bring out the children. He held one, trying to bring the other one out, the one he held out, but he couldn't. And so the 2 of them died, and he sustained various degrees of injury. He's currently at the hospital responding to treatment. So that was what happened. So the whole town is in a shock as to how caused the house. It was really a bad sight in there in Nkwanta, and they don't really know what happened. That's another fire. 3 children of the same family who have to die in the fire. The fire service also tried their best, but according to some residents, they said that the water was not enough, or the pressure was not enough. So every time it is pushed, or they try to push the water in there, the fire comes more as if there's petrol being put into the fire. So that was what happened. So the 3 children lost their lives.
All right, do we have any updates on the 3 children who are feared dead?
Yes, they are dead, and right now the assemblyman is not ready to talk more about it. The father is also not talking. Their father is also not talking. According to the assemblyman, they are waiting for the father to recover, and their mom is also not talking. We've not been able to speak to the mom yet, the mother of the 3 children yet. As to when we get their mother, and as to when the father is able to talk, we'll bring it to our here.
All right, Ivy, but can you tell us the current feel of the area right now?
Well, the whole community is shocked. They are shocked of this right now, because you can imagine 3 children of the same family dying in a fire outbreak on the same day. It's very terrible. People are sad in the community. The whole atmosphere is very bad. People are sad. They don't know what to do, especially the youth and the elders are sad, because it's so sad to see 3 young children at a particular day in a fire outbreak. So when you look at the town, when you see the town, everyone is sad. People are walking concentrating on what really could have caused this fire to make these children lose their lives.
All right, thank you very much, Ivy. That's Ivy Setaji giving us update on that fire outbreak in Nkwanta South and the Volta region. We'll bring you more updates as and when we get them. But let's move on, because the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission says it will investigate complaints from prepaid electricity consumers on vanishing credit and unusual deductions after ordering the ECG to suspend the implementation of a new billing software for postpaid customers yesterday. The ECG has 10 working days to correct anomalies with its billing system, which it says is at the heart of the numerous complaints by its customers. It also faces sanctions for going ahead to implement the new billing software, even though it had been warned against it. Director of Public Affairs at the PURC, Nanaya Jantoa, has been speaking to my colleague, Israel Lai.
But the complaints that were coming were outrageous. Because, for instance, we have a complaint mechanism, a complaint process. Every year, when it comes to overbilling, we get about, when you do your calculation of the 100% complaints that you get, about 18 to 20% are overbilling. From March till now, 62% overbilling. So then we noticed there was a problem. So then we said that let's deal with the problem. So we investigated, we went around, we went to Kumasi, we went to Takoradi, Accra here, We parts of Koforidua, we are now asking them to do Volta Region. I mean, that was enough for us to know that there was a problem.
Right.
Because where a consumer has been paid, has been billed from 2015 to 2019.
How is that possible?
That is it. So it's a billing software thing. So you see, when you as a consumer, you get that kind of bill, you might not even be able to interpret the nitty-gritty of the bill. What you are interested in is the net result. And the net result might be a certain figure that is outrageous. The sum for this one, for instance, about 300,000 Ghana cedis. For a consumer who was consuming, paying 50 Ghana, 300,000. So suddenly you know immediately it's an anomaly.
All right. And you're saying that these problems happen to pertain to credit customers?
Yes, mostly credit customers.
So people who consume before they pay their bills?
Yes, people who consume before they pay their bills. Normally, you see, with the deployment of the prepaid meters, you have complaints about, I purchased my unit and everything got finished. I did this and that. With the credit metering, we've never had complaints. It's only the normal complaints that I think ECG overbilled me, one or a few people. But this one, it was mass. Because normally credit meters, you don't get complaints like, for the prepaid meters are new, you hear all manner of complaints that you go and deal with. But with credit meters, we never had complaints. So when the complaints started coming, we became suspicious.
Right. Now, what's the proportion of customers when it comes to those using the credit meters and those using the prepaid?
The credit meters are about 70. If a prepaid is about 30%, let's say 70.
So the
credits are more.
They are in the majority.
Yes, they are in the majority. There are more people using credit.
I actually thought that ECG has been phasing out these credit meters. They are phasing
out gradually, but there are more people using credit meters. They haven't phased out completely.
So which areas? Because here in Accra, I believe just about everybody is using...
It's not everybody. Some people are using credit meters. Ashanti region, with the exception of some parts of Kumasi, even some people are using credit meters.
How about the other regions?
All of them.
They're using credit meters?
Yes.
So this prepaid thing is just here in Accra?
Accra, Kumasi mainly, but we have it some in Takoradi as portions, but it's not that wide. So that's why they want more. But we are saying that even they have 9 meters. I mean, that is another time to talk about it. Because after we finish with this one, we're also going to get data for the prepaid meters to investigate all these. My units are vanishing, things are this, I bought this and I couldn't get the units required and all that. So now we're going to take the meter by meter and interrogate everything, the software, how it is done, everything.
All right, so for now, your directive is that they should suspend the implementation of the new billing software.
Yes.
What is this billing software?
It is a software that is used to get data from the system to bill you. They had it before. That was the old one.
Today, Ghana is joining other African states to commemorate African Union AU Day. We are Africa, that's the theme for this year's celebration. On 25th May 1963, leaders of 32 independent African states met to form the Organization of African Unity, or AU. By then, more than 2/3 of the continent had achieved mostly from imperial European states. So how has the AU held its own accountable for its governance in member states? We have some answers from the AU's Director of Political Affairs, Dr. Kabele Matlosa.
But all Africans have a common heritage of enslavement, European domination, colonization.
No, the AU has made enormous progress in assisting its member states deal with electoral violence. You know, take for example, you know, in the late 80s, in the early 90s, up to 2000 or thereabout, a number of our countries were marred by electoral violence. You'll remember. Sure. You remember. A number of our countries were marred by electoral violence. And the West
that we saw was in fact in 2007, 2008 in Kenya. You remember that incident. The AU intervened in Kenya. The AU intervened and assisted the Kenyan people to deal with that situation. And Kenya, I must tell you now, Kenya has turned the corner. Kenya had held its previous election in 2013, which was very peaceful and credible, due to AU efforts. And the AU, even in that election, assisted Kenya. And Kenya was assisted in the transition even through going through constitutional review and the referendum of 2010. And 2013 election was very peaceful, was very, very peaceful. Now, so I'm trying to indicate that the AU is making its modest contribution. And the way we're doing that is in different ways. One, we have improved our election observation process in a big way. And this has contributed to scaling down the electoral violence on our continent. Second, we have introduced mediation as a tool also to deal with to strengthen our conflict prevention mechanism. You'll know that we have the AU has its own panel of the wise that we deploy in some of these conflictual situations to deal with prevention of crisis. And panel of the wise, also we work together with besides panel of the wise, we also work together with the Africa Forum of Heads of State, former heads of state and government, which is based in Pretoria. So these bodies have really helped a lot in terms of preventing electoral violence on the continent. As we said,
we do apologize for the earlier insert. That was Dr. Percy reacting to Dr. Matlosi's comment. We can now take a listen to him.
But all Africans have a common heritage of enslavement, European domination, colonization, and have gone through struggles to achieve political independence. And that was necessary because politics must take the lead in dealing with every social issue. But the political independence, above all, was to provide a basis for taking charge of our lives, of our economies. And thus far, we failed to do that. We've entered a new phase of, incidentally, you've misspelled my name, but it's often done. It's P-E-S-S-E-Y. I can see that on the screen. We failed to translate that leaders and peoples to build on the political independence. It was merely to give us space to address the most urgent task at hand, which was taking charge of our lives.
And that we did.
We haven't done that yet. We haven't done that yet.
Politically, some would argue that politically we have.
I'm saying that political space, political independence is important. You must take the lead. It's a necessary condition. It is not a sufficient condition.
You're watching Joy News today on Joy News on Multi TV. We take a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring you some stories on business. Please stay on.
Now time for business, and the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PRC, is asking the ECG to withdraw the current billing software from the system. Said that the PRC is giving ECG 10 days to get an expert to interrogate the billing software to address anomalies. We earlier spoke to the Director of Public Affairs and External Relations at the PRC, Nana Yajantwa. And And also, the SIC company is re-strategizing to shield itself from any possible negative impact of the rains this year, learning lessons from last year's June 3rd flood and fire disaster. Head of Sales and Marketing, Emmanuel Sempenimo-Mensah Jr. says the company spent about 80% of its finances settling clients' claims.
We have a lot of measures in place. First of all, we can increase what we call our excess or deductible on the policy, which means that, for instance, if you incur a loss arising out of flood, we may not pay you. We may end up not paying all the amount of loss you have suffered. We just pay you a portion. That is what we call the increase in deductible. But at times we may go off cover if we look at it that it is more of certainty, because insurance is based on uncertainty. So if it is so certain that the slightest water that comes, there will be a loss against us, then we'll be off cover. Or we'll advise you either to relocate or to stack your things to a certain level. Okay. There is a group around the Odo. They have warehouses there. Some of them we have told them to stack the things at very high levels. They must use only one entrance to enter, and even the entrance should be such that water cannot enter. We have done a lot of things. There is a phone shop at Circle. I've forgotten the name, but it's one of the phone shops. Immediately you enter into the station, you see it in the building there. It's a store building. We told them never to display the items on the first floor, because we know that when there's water settling, the first floor will be damaged. So all the items, displayed items, are on the second floor. So these are part of the risk management processes. I'll give you a very good example. A very, very good example. You go to Japan Motors today, have you seen their car park? Have you seen what they have done to their car park? Metal stores, about 4 or 5 stories. Have you seen them? That's why it's because of the flood. Some of these things are some of the risk management.
And the Ghana Real Estate Developers Association, GREDA, has called on government to expedite action on the real estate fund that will provide affordable capital for the sector. Yes, in the industry say they are unable to secure funding at affordable rate for projects, resulting in the current housing deficit, which is close to about 2 million units. Government had indicated in the housing policy it launched last year that it would create such a fund. But according to the Executive Secretary of GREDA, Samuel Amagaibo, that has not materialized yet. He spoke on the MS show.
This is a very simple thing that can be done, and we have sat down for too long. We haven't taken opportunity to do this, and now it is creating problem for us. It is just about setting up a fund. Look at the ED fund has been set up to assist agricultural sector. Why haven't we done anything to help the real estate sector? It is only when the housing policy was launched last year that we saw it in that document that government has captured it, that they intend to set up a fund. But when are we actually going to set up a fund? Today, the real estate developer is borrowing money from the bank at 32% minimum. How do you expect me to borrow 100,000 Ghana cedis to build a house for you, and the interest rate alone is 32? It tells you that the house is already...
And you are going to pay over the long term.
Yes, and that is on assumption that the house is completed within a year. But if it goes beyond a year, let's even use a year as a basis, it means that if I borrowed 100,000 to build a house for you, interest rate alone is 32,000. So the house is going to be 32,000. That is just one aspect of it.
So that will be it for business on midday. We have more business for you between 1 and 1:30 on the marketplace. We'll be looking at the African Union and the days actually commemorating the perspective of development here in Africa, especially the fiscal component of it. We're looking at that in detail on the marketplace. My name is John Kojo Amwako.
That'll be all for the AU edition of Joy News today here on Joy News on Multi TV. For more news, kindly log on to myjoyonline.com. Thanks for your company. My name is Benis Abubedu. Please stay on for the marketplace.